We are now on live stream, Councillor Jackson. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll just wait until it clicks 6 o'clock on my system before beginning the meeting. It has just turned 6 o'clock. In that case, can I welcome everybody to the meeting? And if I think many people will now be aware that this meeting is being live streamed and may be used for future viewing as well. Can I ask given their sound to mute until they're asked to address the meeting? That will improve the sound quality. And when you speak, can I ask if you can put your cameras on as well, just so we are clearly identifying who is speaking. Can I also ask that everybody turns their mobile phones to silent or turns them off? We all appreciate that home working can have interruptions, but if we can avoid the ones as best we can. The second item on the agenda are apologies for absence. The whole of Cabinet is here, so there are none. Declarations of interest on the agenda. Are there any in addition to those declarations that people need to declare? In that case, then I take it that the declarations as printed suffice, but obviously if interests do become apparent during the meeting, please do alert us to that. The minutes of the 3rd of February have been circulated. Can I ask if someone's prepared to move those as a true record?
I'll move that, Chair. John Beaumont.
Thank you very much, Councillor Beaumont. Is there a second?
Seconded, Chair. Councillor Lloyd.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Lloyd. Any dissent from it? No. Thank you very much. Moving on then to item 5, public consultation. I have been informed that Councillor Kondaka wishes to speak on every item with the exception of item 8 and item 11 because there are no recommendations from overview and scrutiny, and that Mrs Kondaka would like to speak on items 6 and 7. I think those are all the public speakers we've been made aware of. I'm going to leave the agenda in the order it is because everyone wishes to speak in that order. So the first item, main substantive item, is item 6, the General Fund Revenue and Capital Programme 2021-22. This report presents the final General Fund Revenue Budget and Capital Programme for 2021-2022 to Cabinet for approval. Section 3 of the report updates Cabinet on the forecast outturn for the General Fund for the current year, which is a balanced position. However, there have been significant spend and income pressures during the year as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. This has been managed through in-year savings and additional government grant. The table at section 3.2 gives a summary of the COVID pressures that the Council has experienced to date. Section 4 sets out the background to the budget process and key messages from the local government finance settlement. Section 5.1 confirms the proposed council tax increase of £5 for 2021-22, increasing the Band D charge to £243.66 per annum. Although we must note that many households will pay less than this, as over 80% are in bands A to C. The annual increase for a Band A property will be £3.33. Section 5 outlines the current revenue budget proposals for 21-22, and the table at section 5.5 sets out the changes to the budget since the draft budget was presented to Cabinet in January. The table then sets out some further savings for approval, and a growth item relating to climate change is proposed at paragraph 5.6. The updated budget position for approval is a surplus of £3,000, which will be allocated to the unallocated balances. The capital programme for both the current year and 21-22 is included at section 6, and Appendix E, totals nearly £39 million. This incorporates the future High Streets funding and the significant regeneration of that the council will be bringing forward on Abbey Street and Vicarage Street. As part of the annual budget setting process, the Section 151 officer is required to review the level of reserves that the authority holds and confirms that they are at a prudent level. The table at section 7.3 summarises the reserves that the authority is expected to hold over the next 3 years. Section 8 discusses the council's medium-term financial position and the considerable uncertainty that the council faces over the next 12 months due to the spending review, fair funding review and business rates reset. The table at section 8.4 shows a deficit by 23-24 of 1.5 million, although this is based on a number of assumptions about future government policy and also how we recover from COVID-19. A risk assessment is included at section 9, and the section 151 officer's assurance statement on reserves and budget proposals is set out at section 10. This confirms that the estimates included in 2021-22 are robust and the level of reserves are adequate. I do want to, before bringing in public speakers, to pay particular attention to our finance officers who during this pandemic have offered exceptional advice to councillors when we're coming to set budgets, and indeed at the same time dealing with many other pressures that have been heaped upon them. I say that now and hope that Simone, as the Section 151 officer and indeed head of that service, will pass on Cabinet's thanks to officers for their, as always, exceptional advice. I do then have Councillor Kondarka.
Thank you very much, Chair. Hope you can see me okay. I always like to tell people what I think of the budget ahead of time, because I don't like this ambush politics where people come to a meeting and then slap something on the table. Obviously, we're in a very, very difficult position, but two things have really come across from the public is we've had a massive problem with litter, maybe made worse by the number of people stuck wandering around the borough all the time. And I really do feel that actually in the long term it will save us money to invest in more bins. We have very small bins in some locations, those little diddy ones that used to be dog bins, and we have a massive problem with litter. And it obviously, if you look in the budget, it costs us money to have people going around picking litter up. So I do intend to ask for 34 more bins, that's 2 per ward, as part of the budget, and an ongoing commitment to actually increase the action to reducing litter. The second area I'm very keen on sorting out is the late afternoon parking. The town totally dies late in the afternoon, even when we're out of lockdown. And I'm quite keen that we spend some of the funding available from government to help the town recover on reducing parking charges to zero at sort of either 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, what's affordable, so that we actually flatten the curve of really busy town at 11 o'clock in the morning and absolutely dead at sort of 3 and 4 in the afternoon. So they're the two areas for immediate action. Longer term, I think we may need to look at what's happened in South Warwickshire, where Warwick and Stratford are talking about joining as a council. There is a massive long-term problem in financing local government, and I believe there's massive synergies between Nuneaton, Bedworth, Aveston, Coleshill, etc. But also joining together may give us the opportunity of having area planning committees and actually localise stuff more between Nuneaton and Bedworth. So effectively making a bigger council to save money, but then actually doing things that should be done at the Bedworth level or the Nuneaton level at those levels. So I hope we'll have a longer term look at the finances as part of the budget process. And finally, I'd like to say about some of the really exciting schemes we've got going forward, the Abbey Street, the Bridge to Living, etc., that we do need to have a bit more of an impact put on that. Things like cycling haven't been considered, and we've got this issue of flooding for the town centre, which can knock onto all those projects if we don't get that sorted. So I'll leave you those thoughts, Chair, and I hope you'll consider more litter bins and the parking charges as part of your budget process. We were actually successful with the Green Group at County in getting the Conservatives to change one little thing about domestic abuse in their budget, actually on budget day. So it is always useful to do these things in advance. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kondaka. Are there any points of clarification? Not seeing any. In that case, thank you, Councillor Kondaka, and I'm sure Cabinet members will make comments in regard to the points you've raised when we get into the discussion. Mrs. Kondaka, can I ask you to address the committee?
Thank you. Obviously, in 3 minutes, I can't go through every bit that I've ever seen in the your budget statements and what have you. I think so just a couple of bits I've picked out. At 2.3, it says an increase of £5 on a band D. It's very vague. It doesn't say £5 a week, a month, a year and things. So a bit more specificity, if that's the right word. I can get it out. I was a bit sort of surprised to see in the income shortfalls, it was talked about planning fees. And I felt that that should have actually been anticipated, because virtually all the large applications, all the large sites that are in the borough plan have already had applications put in. So I don't know where you were going to get suddenly loads more planning fees when there's not huge things to go in. New homes bonus, some of that is lost if we get an increase of empty homes. So there needs to be rather more effort to put in to actually maximise our income. So there seems to be on and off empty houses officer, but some of the time they seem to be dragged off to do other things and what have you and things. But actually, if they were allowed to really do a good job, that would actually maximise the income to the borough, because we'd actually get more, new homes bonus. The hotel aspects on the capital side, I agree in principle, but a delay of a year be prudent, because the business case was done pre-COVID, and obviously things being very, very slow to recover. So I would have liked to sort of know whether that's how much reassessment there's been on that, because from a public point of view, I'm not aware of that. Freezing vacant posts for staffing savings. I think, you've got to be very, very careful on this, because it's actually a false economy, because if you're having not recruiting, you're getting the remaining staff are having a lot more put on them and things, and we're at risk of actually losing good experienced staff and things. So we do need to have a continual stream of new staff at the lower levels that are actually then trained up and gain their experience through the council. I had an issue with planning, and they were about to need to do enforcement and things, and I was told, oh well, we haven't actually got a planning officer at the moment, planning enforcement officer at the moment. There's only just one support officer, so it's going to be a while. Fortunately, the issue has actually been resolved by the developer, so we don't need to go down that route. But I'm a bit concerned that we just haven't got some of the jobs at all. And nowhere, I could be wrong, but I didn't see any mention of the mayor's car, and that's obviously not been used for the past year. Not seeing much signs that it's likely to be used for the forthcoming year either. Are we still paying for it? And if so, why? Thank you. Oh.
Thank you. I didn't know the buzz. I haven't heard it for a while, Michelle. Thank you very much indeed, Mrs. Kondaka, for your comments. Are there any points of clarification? Not seeing any. In that case, Mrs. Kondaka, thank you very much for your comments. Just a few items to come back on, I think. It's my understanding that there has been, and Simone will correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've had any expenditure this year in regard to the mayor's car. It is a £5 council tax increase per annum on a Band D property. So if you live in a Band A to C property, which 80% of our residents do, you will pay less than that £5 per annum. I think Councillor Kondaka talked about flooding. I understand the flooding is primarily, flooding issues are primarily in this case the responsibility of Warwickshire County Council, but obviously we are keen that our regeneration proposals aren't adversely affected by any delays in addressing flood risk issues. In regard to parking and potentially reducing charges in the late afternoons, as I think again Councillor Kondaka, you referred to that, Cabinet did make it very clear that once we were out of the current lockdown, which is encouraging us all to stay at home unless we have to go to work or do certain essential duties like collecting food shopping or visiting a chemist, etc., we should be discouraged from actually leaving our homes. So we thought it better to look at parking once we are going more into the recovery phase and out of lockdown. I think there are some initial comments I would put back. I do think, Councillor Shepherd, would you like to say anything about our actions in regard to litter bins, etc.?
Thank you, Chair. We do have a list of requirements from councillors in terms of litter bins. So I'm sure Councillor Condacor has been in touch with the manager of waste to say where there's need. We do assess need to make sure they're in the right places, and have at times move bins around to make sure they are. So in terms of, you're saying to a ward, I think they need to be identified where they need to go. And obviously there is a cost to that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Simone, can I just ask you, is there anything you need to correct on what I said in regard to the bandy £5 per annum, etc.? Sorry, I don't want to be accused of saying the wrong thing. Some of the financial things I referred to.
No, Chair, no corrections required.
Thank you. I just thought we need to be completely transparent in that. I've got Councillor Lloyd wants to come in.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just cover a couple of points. Parking you've covered. We have indeed said that we will look again at that once we are coming out of the current lockdowns. Litter bins. I hear what Councillor Kondaka is saying, but even when we put large wheelie bins in locations to take the extra litter that's been spread around our parks and open spaces, we still find that people overload the small bins rather than putting the litter into the big bins. I have to say, sometimes, people have to take the litter home if the bins are full. We're in exceptional times where there is a lot of people using our parks and open spaces, and it is generating a lot of litter. Maybe not so much now, but certainly coming into the spring and summer, if we're in the same position again where there's lots of people's at homes, we will put the large bins out to cater for the bulk of that rubbish. Warwick, well, all I'll say, Councillor, I remember the area committees, and they were used as a tool to hit the north with, and very little funding came through them. So I'm not a fan of the area committees and being ruled by Warwick. I think whatever format it takes in the future, that at the end of the day, we need the services and finances local, so local people can hold councillors, whoever they may well be, accountable. So I'm not in favour, definitely not, of transferring all the power to the other side of the county to be run by Warwick.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Lloyd. Any further comments? The recommendations are clearly at section 2 of the report. Obviously, I'm sure there will be lots of discussion next Monday when the budget for the council is actually set. At this stage, though, are there any other comments that people wish to make? In that case, then I'm going to move the recommendations as printed. Is that seconded?
I'll second that, Chair.
Oh, thank you. That was at least 3 of you. I'll take John Beaumont as formally seconding. Is there any dissent from that? I'm not seeing any. In that case, the budget will be considered, as I say, on Monday evening by full council, but the recommendations to Cabinet are approved. That then takes us on to the next item, which is item 7. And Councillor Watkins, I believe you're going to introduce this report, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Has the camera come on yet?
You are on camera now,
okay.
Councillor Watkins.
This report presents the Cabinet with the revenue and capital budgets for the Housing Revenue Account 2021-22. The report also includes a forecast outturn position for 2021, based on information available at the end of December. The table at section 3 highlights the key variances for the current financial year, with the key issues being the additional costs in the independent living service for the fire risk surveys and security services. This is funded from a combination of in-year savings and use of reserves. The forecast outturn for the HRA is a small favourable variance of 2k. Section 4 then sets out the draft budget position for the HRA for 2021-22, which is a deficit of 2.76 million, largely due to the revenue contribution of capital of 3.7 million and the cost of borrowing of 8 million to finance the capital programme. The HRA balance will still be 3.7 million at the end of 21-22, which is above the minimum working balance. The budget assumes a rent increase of 1.5% in line with the government rent policy, and other fees and charges have also been increased by 1.5%. Section 5 presents the capital programme for 21-22, an update of the current year programme, and full details are attached at Appendix C. The programme for 21-22 will total 25 million and includes 6.6 million for the new builds, as well as various projects to maintain and improve our existing stock. Section 6 shows the budget risk assessment for the HRA and the level of reserves that should be maintained to meet these risks. Section 7 provides an update of the HRA business plan and the key strategic pieces of work that will be carried out in 21-22 to respond to future pressures and demands. The recommendations, Chair, are shown at Section 2. And back to you now, Chair.
Thank you very much. We do have 2 public speakers on this. Councillor Kondarka.
Thank you very much. It must really be welcome to spend 25 odd million pounds on our housing stock and ancillary stuff. We desperately need to update and improve stuff, and where things have been improved, like Carisbrook a couple of years ago, we had the external cladding, and that really did make a massive difference. What we do need to do, though, is do it right. So I do hope local members are involved well when we do these local projects. We've got some lovely slab to tarmac work at Cleaver Gardens, for example, but there's a few things that went wrong because we didn't have those discussions first. A few places where the disabled access, the steps where we should have had a ramp and things. So I hope in this year's capital programme we will actually ensure we discuss what we're doing with the local members. I also welcome the £1 million for new central heating, and with the climate change agenda, I do hope we have a decent discussion about what sort of boilers or whether we do ground source heat pumps to make that future proof. And unfortunately there's still a dispute over who takes over the maintenance of the roads and things at Cleaver Gardens. We've got the roads and pavements, which are in a dreadful state, as they are at places like Ryde Avenue, and there does seem to be a hole in our thinking on housing to look after the car parks and paths. And we have unfortunately had some accidents in the past where older people have tripped over some of these holes in car parks, and they really do need to either be handed over to the county council, which would be a good solution, or we need to actually put them up to a decent standard of maintenance. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Kondaka. Are there any points of clarification of Councillor Kondaka? Not seeing any. Can I thank you for your comments, Councillor Kondaka, and invite Mrs. Kondaka to address the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. There were just one or two bits really I wanted to pick out and things, because they talk about salary savings, and when I've sort of asked and found out a little bit more on things, some of that is vacancies in the independent living team, and that seems to me sort of to be very contrary to the amount that's been spent on the fire safety works. There was 500,000, so that's £500,000 from the reserves for the fire risk surveys and security. And then on Appendix C, it shows fire safety upgrade works 2.916 million. Well, 2.2 million. Risk assessments 40,000, and fireworks general purpose 260,000. Now, some of these having to have the fire wardens and things seem to be in place of the independent, the wardens and what have you and things, but there seem to be vacancies in those teams and things. And I thought that the people in the independent living areas things actually paid for these services, and it seems that they're not getting them. So there seems to be just a bit of a mismatch there as to where you're getting savings and who's paying for what. And the amounts for the fire safety stuff doesn't seem to tally with what was taken to the internal scrutiny regarding the fireworks and things, because that was said it was going to be ongoing. And yet I didn't really see much for the forthcoming budget. It all seemed to be in this financial year that's just gone. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Mrs. Kondaka. Any points of clarification of Mrs. Kondaka? Councillor Watkins.
Yeah, Chair, I really need to clarify some stuff there.
Councillor Watkins, can I just ask if this is a question to Mrs. Kondaka of what she said, or is this something you want to clarify during debate?
I'll clarify it during debate, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Can I thank Mrs. Kondaka for her contributions? Councillor Watkins, I will come straight to you. I just needed to know whether you actually wanted to ask Mrs. Kondaka a question based on what she'd said. But over to you, Councillor Watkins.
Yeah, thank you. I just need to clarify some things, because I think people sometimes do get a little bit confused. It did say the work was ongoing, and it has been ongoing and will be to the end of this financial year, when it will be completed, like I have said at many other meetings. The meetings can be viewed, or said it would be completed at the end of the financial year. It will be. Then we won't need the Waking Watch. Nobody at any independent living unit pays for Waking Watch as a service. What happened was we changed the policy from a stay put to a get out, stay safe policy. And by doing that, we needed to put in Waking Watch. The Waking Watch did cost us money, but we made sure that our residents were safe and could get out, stay out until the fire service turned up and made sure everything was safe for them to return to their properties. Got no problem with spending that. In fact, we were well ahead of the government on this. We've done all our fire risk assessments in all our independent living services, and we've done them all within a year. We've bought in risk assessors from outside, done the work, and I've got nothing but praise for our team. They have done an amazing job to not only get the fire risk assessors, to get the work done through a global pandemic, through a national shortage of building materials, and they've still managed to go ahead and do it within a year. the government have only just released the white papers on what they want to do on fire risk assessments on buildings, and we've been there, done it, and got a T-shirt there. I am really proud of the team that we have working for the Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council within housing and communities, and in fact across all of the teams. But obviously, I'm going to talk about housing and communities. That's all I'm going to say for now, Chair. But proud to put this budget forward and proud to represent housing and communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I note Simone Hines would like to make a comment.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to clarify the difference between the revenue and the capital budget. So the £500,000 environment that was referred to for the Waking Watch and the fire risk surveys is in the HRA revenue budget. The two for the carrying out the fire works is capital. So that's why there is the difference between the two figures, because they are for different things entirely. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Simone. Councillor Lloyd.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, I think housing have got to be commended on this report and how they've held things together over this past 12 months. The capital programme actually goes to scrutiny, so I can't see how Councillor Kondaka hasn't had an input or hasn't seen what is happening over the last 12 months and the chance of seeing what's happening over this 12 months. The fire safety changes, I totally agree with Councillor Watkins. At the end of the day, fire safety changes over the years. Our complexes were built a long time ago, back in the 70s, and things have changed over the years. And with the Grenfell disaster that happened, we've got to take every opportunity to make sure that our buildings are safe, and make no apology for that. And I think the way it's been handled is in the correct fashion. That's what reserves are for, to actually fund things like this. There's a lot to shout about. Byford Court rebuild, acquisition of properties, etc. The window programs and everything else that's going on within that capital programme is making lives a lot better for our housing tenants, and we're creating more properties as well, new build for our residents of this borough. So I think the housing department have got a lot to shout about, and of course this hasn't just happened today, same as the previous report. This has been going on, and we've been budgeting for this for the last 12 months. Every pre-cabinet meeting we've had, every cabinet meeting we've had, every full council, the budget has been right on the tip of our tongue, and we've been dealing with it. So we're in this position, and I say, a good position, because of that diligence over the last 12 months. So I commend the report, and I think again, for small finance department, they've done an incredible job, both on the previous budget and on the housing revenue budget, and later on you'll see on other budgets. It's a lot to take in for a very small finance department. So I commend it, and I thank the housing team and our finance department again for the position they've kept us in.
Thank you, Councillor Lloyd. I wanted to really draw attention to Appendix C, which to me sets out one huge capital programme of investment into our existing stock, but also about talking about what we want to do to increase that stock. It's absolutely phenomenal, this programme. You know, works to do things that are so vitally needed. District heating, fireworks we've talked about, acquisition of properties, because there is a housing need in our community and we're doing something to address that. Level access showers, they can be life enhancing, quality of life, really important to our residents. I could go on, but there is a huge capital programme and that takes a great deal of oversight by officers. And I'd like to join in the comments that Councillor Lloyd made about our housing and indeed our finance team. We've had to deal with an unprecedented global pandemic that has meant so many new ways of working to ensure that both our employees and our tenants stay as safe as possible during these times. We've been meeting an unheard of demand for housing, with more people presenting as homeless than perhaps at other times, and housing has indeed met that challenge in an admirable way. So I want to join what I think would be Councillor Watkins and Councillor Lloyd's comments in that regard. Can I ask Dawn Dawson, I know is in our meeting today. There is a question in the chat facility. I'm wondering, Dawn, whether you could reply to that question following the meeting, please.
Yes, I'll do that, Chair. Thank you.
That's lovely. Thank you very much. I think we have some, I've read the thing in the chat. It relates to whether money's coming out of this year's budget rather than the forthcoming year, and I'm sure that Mrs. Kondaka will receive that reply from Dawn Dawson. Are there any other questions, comments at this stage? OK, then, Councillor Watkins, I believe you moved the proposals. Councillor Watkins, did you move the recommendations? I think I heard you say that, but I just want to clarify.
Yes.
Yeah, OK. I'm happy to second those recommendations. Are they agreed? Any dissent, please raise your hand. In that case, then those are all approved. Thank you very much. Then moving to item 8 on the agenda, which is the Treasury Strategy and Budgetary Framework 2021-22. This report sets out the Council's strategy for borrowing and investing resources during 2021-2022 and indeed through to 2023-2024. All the Treasury and prudential indicators requiring approval are detailed in the report, but are summarised at Appendix B. These help to ensure that our capital spend is affordable and prudent. The report includes forecasts for interest rates and future capital spend and details the impact that these have on the borrowing and investments for this council. The capital spend plans at section 4.2 of the report include the full regeneration costs for Abbey Street and Bridge to Living, although the second phase of the Abbey Street development is still subject to final consideration by Cabinet as the project progresses. The Council's investment policy, investment strategy and our counterparty creditworthiness policy, that's rather a long phrase, which explains how we select suitable investment counterparties, are detailed in section 11 through to 13. Section 13.2 shows how low investment returns are expected to be in the medium term as the economy recovers from the pandemic. The Council is also required to have a policy approved annually for a minimum revenue provision for bad debt, and this is included at Appendix A. As part of SIPFA's Treasury and Prudential Codes, all councils must prepare a capital strategy describing a high-level overview of how our capital programme contributes to provision of services, and you can find that at Appendix G. The recommendation at 2.1 is for Cabinet to agree the proposed Treasury strategy and budgetary framework for the 2021-22 period as detailed in Appendix H and to submit Council for approval. Due to the timescales involved, this report is marked not for calling. We don't have any public speakers on this particular report. Would any member of Cabinet like to comment? In that case, can I thank Craig and the team for all of the incredible hard work that goes on, making sure that we are doing things in accordance with due processes, and actually that we are setting prudent capital programmes and really supporting the priorities of the council. Craig, is there anything you wish to add?
No, there's nothing more for me to add to the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Craig. In that case, then, are we all happy? I've moved the recommendations. Is someone prepared to second that?
Seconded, Chair. Chris Watkins.
Thank you, Councillor Watkins. And is that agreed by everyone? Any dissent, please use the hand function. That then is agreed. Thank you very much. That moves us then on to item 19, COVID-19 Business Support Grant Update. This report updates Cabinet on progress with administering COVID-19 business grants since November, when previous national and local restrictions have been in place. Section 3 summarizes the different schemes that are available for businesses impacted by COVID-19, and the table at 3.2 sets out each scheme and the eligibility criteria. Some grants are specifically for those businesses that have been mandated to close their premises. Some are for those who have been able to stay open but have been severely impacted by restrictions. And there are also discretionary grants aimed particularly at those without business premises. Section 3.3 sets out the payments that have been made since November, which is in excess of £5 million. There are currently around 500 businesses in receipt of the grants payable under the national lockdown restrictions. Section 4 then provides an update on the additional restrictions grant, which is a discretionary grant which can be paid as direct business grants or used towards wider business support measures. The Council has been working closely with local business networks to design the support that can be provided under this scheme, and has established a business support partnership. Through this partnership, the Council and the business groups are developing longer-term, holistic and sustainable measures to support business through recovery from the impact of COVID-19 on the local economy. The recommendations are seen at section 2. Can I bring in Councillor Kondaka?
Thank you very much, Chair. I don't want to say too much on this. I mean, it's obviously vital work we're doing, but I just wanted to raise the point we are still short of Economic Development Officer, which would have been a key asset in terms of talking to businesses in trouble. And also I have had an inquiry about these grants today, actually, and I did direct people to the Cabinet paper as a nice handy source of where all the information, all the different grants is. But I do think we need better comms and more comms on it, because A, it's so confusing, and B, it's so important as this drags on. And I'm also afraid that the COVID situation's going to have a long tail. It isn't 4 weeks, everyone's vaccinated and we're out of it. This is going to go on for many months. And I just asked the Cabinet to try and get more publicity about it. Hopefully we're going to get more funding through various recovery funds in the next financial year. But it's just so heartbreaking for small businesses, particularly those 1- and 2-man things, some which don't have premises, which you mentioned, that had been left out. And I'm really annoyed at how late the vaccinations and things have started in Nuneaton and Bedworth. They're absolutely marvellous, but yeah, every week you start later is another week. We're going to still be carrying problems in Nuneaton and Bedworth. I do encourage everyone to get a vaccine. This is the other thing that I think this recovery and all these businesses need. These businesses need everyone in Nuneaton and Bedworth to get a vaccine when they can.
Thank you, Councillor Kondaka. Any points of clarification from Cabinet? No. Can I say, Councillor Kondaka, I agree with everything you said there. I think our communications team has been trying to publicise the grants on offer. I have to say it is confusing because there are so many different types of grants available, but we will continue that communication, I am sure. And like yourself, I am keen that we get vaccines out as quickly as possible to as many people in our borough as we can. I know many of us would be delighted to go and get our jab when it's our turn to do so. I think Simone wants to come in, and I think I also saw Dawn indicating Simone.
Thank you, Chair. It was just to mention that we have been working very closely with the business networks also on that communication issue, because we do accept that the number of grants there are available is very confusing, and we have developed some communication materials, including a flowchart that hopefully makes it easy for businesses to understand what they're entitled to. The business networks have all been promoting that for us through their own channels, as well as doing that ourselves. But I think we'll also circulate that to all councillors, just so you've got that. If you do get direct inquiries from businesses, you can also point them in that direction as well. So we'll do that this week. That's really useful. I think we would all really value that, Simone. Dawn, I think your hand's gone down. Did you wish to come in, or has Simone covered the point you were going to make?
Thank you, Chair. Simone's covered it. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. That's brilliant. I think anything we can do to assist with communication is something I'm sure we would all wish to do, and I want to place on record actually our thanks to our partners out there from organisations like the FSB, the Small Federation of Small Businesses, etc., who have really joined in and supported us with this. Councillor Lloyd.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, again, it's a good report. It shows where all the grants monies have been paid out to, what areas, etc., and what the different grants are that are coming in. The thing that I will definitely agree with Councillor Kondaka on is that, at the end of the day, I think this is about a marathon and not a 50-yard sprint. We've got to be prepared to be doing this for the foreseeable future. Businesses are going to need a lot of support out there, not just at the moment, but in the future, and especially when we're coming out of the COVID-19 restrictions. So we're in it for the long term. So I will, say that, we've got to treat this as a marathon and not a 50-yard sprint. And I'll leave it at that, Chair. The report says it all.
Thank you very much. Can I just remind members that when they are speaking, if they can turn their cameras on, that would be
apologise.
Really helpful. Thank you. With those comments, I think there's tremendous work going on here. I think the Appendix A setting out this new business support partnership draft terms of reference is also something that we would very much, I'm sure, wish to want to support. Anything we can do to encourage businesses to continue at this time is something absolutely vital, because it is those businesses that provide jobs which residents need to be able to continue doing. So can I thank everybody for their efforts? I've moved the recommendation. Is that seconded?
Seconded, Chair. Councillor Lloyd.
Thank you, Councillor Lloyd. And is there any dissent from agreeing those proposals? Thank you. In that case, then, I do move to item 10, which is the Strategic Performance Report. It's on page 40. Is there anything officers wish to add to this, Simone or Brent?
Not particularly, Chair. I'd just draw your attention to Appendix A, which is the executive summary, and that gives a summary of the positive aspects and also areas for improvement. And I guess the only thing I would add is that COVID clearly is having an impact on many areas of our council services at the moment, including our collection rates, particularly business rates, but also it is having an impact on our delivering our future plan. So there are a number of the actions that we're aiming to deliver this year that have been affected by COVID, but that is summarised in Appendix A, so I'd just refer you there.
Thank you very much. And I noticed Brent. Are you wishing to add anything, Brent?
No, I'll just say that a bit like Dawn said earlier, Chair, that Simone's managed to cover the points I was going to say. Thank you. Thank
you very much. Can I invite Councillor Kondaka to make any comments?
Thank you very much. I mean, one comment I already made about the lack of economic development staff. That's it's really hard to recruit. So I know the problems you've got, but if we're going to boost the small businesses in the borough, we need to find a solution to that, be it sharing staff or something like that. Also, the risk register is not actually on there, and there's not a link to it. There's just comments at the very last page on a couple of red risks. I do think we need to actually publish links and keep the risk register more in view, particularly at the time. And two risks we've got, I think, really do need discussing. One is us coming out of COVID later than other places. So we're coming down with our COVID rate. We're about 210 at the moment, and we were up in the 500. So we've reduced it by 60%, but we've got an awful long way still to go. And yeah, I am afraid we're coming out slower than some other places. And secondly, we've got a lot of big projects which obviously carry lots of risk, because everything's all interconnected. You know, the hotel plans we've got, the Abbey Street, and we really need to try and get some of those risks reduced, and see where we're going with it. We can't just be optimistic. We have to be sort of work out where I think you do SWOT analysis, don't you? Strengths and weaknesses, and we have a few issues that I think we do need to discuss after the election and after budgets, to try and get everyone working together to get some of these projects maybe scaled back a bit, but actually push forward in terms of undoing some of the problems. And I keep mentioning flooding because I say that's a big thing that will unlock a lot of town centre issues. And the county council, I know it's county council's flood stuff, does seem to have gone a bit late, but that is important for our town centre stuff as well. So I do think that the members here need to get on board with it. And I thank the officers for saying we've got a flow chart coming to explain all the business help, because it is very complicated. And if I can send people a flow chart or the more knowledge we've got of how to get these grants, the better. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kondaka. Any points of clarification? I don't normally ask you a point of clarification, Councillor Kondaka, and I trust you will accept this in the spirit I ask it. You mentioned that the County Council has a primary role in flood alleviation, etc. You are a member in another authority. I'm presuming that you're also raising these matters there.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yes, I am pushing it there, and obviously delays on the flood aspects of the transforming the Nuneaton thing are a big concern to me, and particularly because it also knocks on to Weddington, because if you send the water round the Nuneaton to Weddington, then it dumps it all on my residents. So I am trying very hard to chase it, but it's useful if yourself and other people from the Borough Council do try and get more progress reports on it as well.
Absolutely, would agree with that. Any comments on the report? I think we do note those areas in Appendix A that officers drew our attention to, and it is the whole of life, hasn't it, has been affected by COVID. We have to say that councils aren't exempt in that. It's brought a way of working, remote meetings being one of them at the moment, which is probably the least difficult one for us. I've got Councillor Shepherd wishing to come in.
Thank you, Chair. In regard to people and service delivery on page 49, I note the commentary from the officers in regard to the requests to automatically acknowledge, which I am aware is done. So could I ask that in terms of the last two columns that the not acknowledged comments are removed? Because I think it does send out the wrong, it looks like we don't respond at all, and actually I know that's not the case, so if that could be removed. And also how pleased I am with the annual development reviews being so high in such difficult times. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Can we just ask, I don't know who the appropriate officer is actually, in regards to complaints, is an acknowledgement of complaints sent within 10 days in all cases? Can I ask that? Can I ask that of Brent or Simone?
It should be, Chair. I can't categorically say it is. There may be the very, very odd occasion when it's not done, but it should be. That's that, and the vast majority of complaints do get at least an acknowledgement within 10 days.
Yes, Simone, sorry, are you wishing to come in?
Yeah, so just picking up on that point, I think that the table in the report, I think, shows that there has been one complaint that wasn't acknowledged out of, so we had 68 received in the period and one that's under investigation and wasn't acknowledged. And then, yeah, so as Brent said, there may be the very odd occasion where we don't do that, but it is quite rare. So I think that's why that column's in there.
Yeah, well. And just to enlarge that a bit more, Chair, those very rare occasions would be where a person may have complained about several things that touch several different parts of the council. And sometimes we do need to get our act together more in ensuring that one of those areas sends the acknowledgement and then pulls together the response. It's those types of things where it can occur.
Okay, can I advise the meeting? I've turned my camera off because my broadband speed is causing problems. It is the column where actually there are 3 complaints under waste management, that if you read the column, the 1, 2, 3, 4 columns along, it says number of complaints outside 10 days, brackets, not acknowledged. And so it does appear on this chart that 3 complaints in waste management were not acknowledged. Is that the case, that they weren't acknowledged in 10 days, or is it rather that they received a holding reply but not a full reply? Because it looks, it could appear to be wrongly listed. From what you're saying to me, there may be the very odd occasion when a complaint doesn't receive an automatic acknowledgement at an early stage.
Yes, Chair.
This column doesn't seem to be saying that. It seems to be saying that 3 in this period were actually not acknowledged.
So that was 3 out of the 65 that we received there, that they have been completed though. So they were completed outside of the 10 days, but they have been, so the customer has had a response to that complaint, but it was outside the 10 days, but it wasn't acknowledged that they have had an actual response to their complaint.
I think the best thing, Chair, is I can look into the detail of that and advise Cabinet of what the details are behind those 3 instances.
Yeah. Real clarity, I think Councillor Shepherd, is if we're acknowledging within 10 days, that's what we should be doing. We may not give a full response to a complaint within 10 days. I think they're 2 different things, aren't they? What we would want to do is reply to absolutely everyone within 10 days, unless there are exceptional reasons for not doing so. But it may take us longer, and I understand that if it's a particularly complex complaint, it could take longer than 10 days. Perhaps, yeah, if you can have a look at that
Absolutely, Chair.
Meeting so that what we're actually producing is perhaps a little clear. Councillor Shepherd, would that satisfy your concerns?
Chair, that would satisfy my concerns, because I have got concern, and I know that members of the public are acknowledged, but it just looks on that form as if we've done nothing, and I don't like that idea at all.
Okay, thank you very much. In that case, then, are we happy to address issues arising? I think we've done that, the recommendation that is at section 2. Are we happy with the comments to note the report?
I'm happy to second that, Chair. Chris Watkins.
Thank you very much. That is then any dissent from that? Okay, thank you very much. And that brings us on to item 11, which is recommendation scrutiny panels. I'm informed there are none for this cabinet meeting. I'm presuming that is still correct. Can I ask Rebecca if that's the case? I think it is.
Yes, that is correct, Councillor.
Thank you very much. And that then leads us on to any other business, any other items, sorry. There are no other items that I'm aware of. I'm presuming that is the case, Brent. Simone?
That's correct, Chair.
Excellent. In that case, then that does bring us to the conclusion of our meeting. Can I thank everybody for attending this evening? Apologise that partway through the meeting I had to turn my camera off, and wish everybody who is not working from home a safe journey home, and look forward to seeing you on Monday evening. Thank you very much indeed. Good night. Can we end the